Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to the channel, and I am doing a really cool video today because I'm going to be showing you a Bloodmage Thalnos deck. Now, I haven't played Thalnos since about Season 1, and he's actually really viable right now. Like, probably tier 1. I would definitely argue that he's up there in tier 1. And this is a deck that basically is kind of the way you're supposed to play Thalnos. It's essentially full spell deck, but because we have Hero's Resolve, and we have quite a cheap cycle, because one thing that you need to know when you're thinking about building decks with cycle, obviously our average cost is 2.3, which is great. That's really low for a cycle deck. But remember, you only need to, I think you need to cycle 4 cards before you get back to the original card. So you technically can play Thalnos, you know, Smoke Bomb, the first Arcane Blast, and then one of your 2s. You've got a very low cycle cost overall on this deck. And so that, and plus Kobold. So you've got a really, really, really easy way to cycle back to Thalnos and take advantage of Hero's Resolve. Now, don't quote me on the 4 cards. I can't remember if it's 4 or 3, but either way, brain fart. So let's talk about the point of this deck. Now, we're going to run Bloodmage Thalnos with Bane. I think it's the best of the talents. The Vampirism's okay, but Bane is going to be your win condition in terms of when you get Thalnos to the base. You want to run Smoke Bomb. If you have the Strangers in the Night talent, that can work really well to get Thalnos away from certain minis that are going to cause him problems, but otherwise Through the Shadows works perfectly fine because Thalnos is quite a slow unit, so it just helps speed him up towards getting an enemy or getting towards the base. We're going to run Ghoul with Bone Shield. It's the best talent for Ghoul, just a really tanky boy if you get him armored. We are going to run Inner Fire because we want resistant and armored in clutch situations for our Thalnos and any other units. We're going to run Poison Bramble Burst on Quillbore. Why Poison Bramble Burst on Quillbore? Primarily because it helps deal with stealth minis like Safe Pilot. It helps deal with the bubble on Murloc Tidehunters. We're going to run Amplification on Arcane Blast. Now, every other talent on Arcane Blast isn't that good, so Amplification is really just the best one. Increases the radius by 1 every time you use it. You won't use 3 and 4 on Arcane Blast that often until you're in the very clutch end of the game. They can be really good game finishers. And then there is an option for Polymorph. You can run Golden Fleece, or you could potentially run Exploding Sheep. Now, I actually want to try, I could upgrade Polymorph to Epic, and I actually want to try with a double duration, but you've got to remember the duration of Polymorph goes down with level advantage of the unit compared to the spell. So obviously, in Hero's Resolve, Polymorph becomes less and less effective the more times the enemy has played their leader. So versus like Hogger decks and Tyrion decks, you're going to find that Polymorph won't actually last that long at all. So maybe the double duration is actually going to come in pretty clutch. It's just about whether you have the burst damage necessary to burn through the regenerating HP. Right, there we go. That is the deck. Let's do some voiceover analysis of some games that I played. I'm going to show you some wins and losses. I forget, in some of my recent videos, I haven't actually shown you losses because there haven't been that many good ones to show you, but I actually had some good losses on this deck, and it shows you where this deck is good and where it isn't. Because the one thing I will say about this deck, it's not like a deck where you can you're going to steamroll every deck. There are definitely some clear weaknesses and strengths to this deck, and you'll find that versus certain matchups you might start to struggle. But we'll talk through that when we play some of those games. First matchup that I want to show you is going to be versus a Hogger. My Thalnos deck is not as high as some of my other decks because I have a lot of like spells that I've not upgraded to Epic. So obviously like Smoke Bomb, Holy Nova, and Polymorph. I haven't upgraded any of these things to Epic yet. So my Thalnos deck is a little lower than some of my other decks, but that's pretty good because it means I won't have like as obnoxious of a level advantage that I have on some of my other decks. Like sometimes I find it quite hard to show you games where I haven't just got a level advantage on people. But there we go. And this is, by the way, this is also a deck that's very easy for most people to play because it doesn't use Deep Breath. Like, that's the problem with a lot of high-level PvP decks, right? They use Deep Breath, and I'm very, very aware that most people don't have access to that spell. But it's just too good to not play it at certain levels, right? It's just too much of a strong spell. But we can play this deck without Deep Breath. And if anything, we need the cheaper spells to make this deck really work. So this is generally, so when you're playing this deck, like the where is it? The standard combo that we want to run is kind of this. This is really nice. You want to have a Ghoul walking up with Bloodmage Thalnos behind, because really your Ghoul really wants to just be the meat shield for your Thalnos as much as it can be. So we're going to do a pretty standard setup here. You're going to see me use the Quillbore straight away, and we're actually going to use Arcane Blast here just to try and stop him from mining. Now, I didn't, while all of that took place, I obviously just saw the safe pilot come down and essentially kill off my chances of having a Thalnos going up. But that's fine, because now I can just respawn Thalnos, and we're kind of back to square one at this point. But I would say that we're winning overall in this case, because Ghoul is getting so much value over here. Like, you can just see it over here. We're actually going to use our Arcane Blast to cycle, but also grant us a level towards our Thalnos, which again has allowed us to cycle back out to Thalnos once again, which is really nice. So here we go again. We're going to play another Kobold. We've got 3 Kobolds on the map. Here comes another safe pilot, but watch this, right? Safe pilot landed above, which is a bit of a pain. If safe pilot had landed below, you saw that I actually, on impact, as soon as the safe pilot impacted, I used Holy Nova, which granted me resistant and shielding, but also gave me health back to my Thalnos, as well as granting a level up. If the safe pilot landed on the same plane as my Thalnos, we would have been able to kill the safe pilot by revealing the stealth as well. But in this case, we're going to have to end up using a double Arcane Blast just to get it done. Which, weirdly enough, like, this Thalnos didn't seem to like, for some reason this Thalnos didn't level up, and this Thalnos is now level 14. I'm not really sure why that actually occurred. I feel like that Thalnos should technically be level 13, but it was only level... Yeah, interesting. That's very weird. So we're going to level up again by using our smoke bomb. And we're just going to look to cycle using our very cheap cycle. Really easy. We've got another Thalnos behind it. It's level 13 as well. We'll just keep cycling the Thalnoses, and this is basically where it gets to. When you get to the base, you can just use this. We're gonna put another Thalnos out. We're gonna drop another smoke bomb, and then we're just gonna... This guy's kind of given up at this point. He knows that he's doomed. But we just had such a good start to this game, and you can get very strong starts with this deck as well. Right, let's jump to the next game. So here's a bad matchup. One of the things that this deck isn't particularly strong at dealing with is really high HP targets, and we're going into a Cairn deck with... I tried to get my Ghoul over towards that guy, but it didn't quite work out. With Cairn decks, it's difficult because there's a lot of really, really tanky targets. And Thalnos is great at dealing that damage, but you can see he doesn't really deal a huge amount of single target damage. Now we're trying to level up here, but it's just a little too much, too little, too late. And also versus the Cairn, just stuns the Thalnos. Thalnos gets like stuck in stun lock, and so I then accidentally... I knew it was over at this point, because then I just accidentally Holy Nova'd nothing. But this is just showing you that sometimes versus high HP targets like this, you've got 2 Cairns, you've got a level 10 Troll Headhunter, you've got an unbelievably tanky Stonehoof Tauren. It's not an easy matchup to win. Like, obviously, the best way to win this matchup would be coming out with like a really, really, really good polymorph. But yeah, he's even got Execute and Blizzard. So it's a really cool, by the way, a really cool Cairn deck, and I'm definitely going to try this out, but he's got just like a super strong lineup. Not much I can do here. Thalnos is not great into these high HP targets unless you polymorph, and even if you do polymorph, you have to be able to cycle up the attack speed of Bane. It's very difficult to win those matchups. Okay, this is a good one. This is versus Chalga, so we're going to be going into basically the Chalga cycle deck that you might have seen on my channel. A little different, probably the one that I played, but kind of has the same ethos. So we're going to send our Thalnos. We're actually just going to cycle that and kill off those. We're going to kill off those. We're also going to use the third one to take down the Griffin Rider, but we also take down Chalga as well. So he's going to polymorph my my Thalnos. I don't really know why I used the stealth there. That was kind of very silly of me. And I'm actually going to drop my my Quillball behind the safe pilot just to make sure that I do end up getting away with killing these guys. But not a great start, realistically. I had a very rough start here. I made some really awful plays, and he's got some excellent timing with the Chalga in this case. I'm trying to stop him from farming the gold, but it's a really big uphill battle. Now, in this scenario, so let's say you're in this scenario, you have had an absolutely garbage start like I had. Like, I played horrendously at the start of this, right? What do you do in this scenario? Well, you try and let them get overconfident. So what you're going to have to sacrifice base HP. So I know in this scenario, I've got to sacrifice base HP because that's the only resource that I'm going to trade to get back on an even economic standpoint with this guy. He's Chalga, so I can never really know how much he's spending on his gold because it's difficult. You can't track Chalga's spending. You can track spending versus other leaders because you know what they're spending on their units, but with Chalga, you don't actually know what they're spending on their units. In a deck like this, you can basically say it's almost equivalent, but they'll come out with these big combos where they spend a very little gold to get a lot of value. That's kind of the point of Chalga. We want him to send a lot of stuff this way, and then we want them to group up, and then we want to use like a Bloodmage Thalnos to kill it all off. So in this scenario, we just need to look for as many value trades as possible. In this case, this is a really good value play. We're going to drop our ghoul, and he's going to keep eating to keep himself going and going and going and going. And then behind them, I'm going to spawn my Quillboar to stop those Mallet Tide Hunters, and you can still see that my ghoul is still going. So in this case, we've got a really nice value. Now watch this. As soon as she drops, we're actually going to use the... he used the polymorph as well. So that was a little bit awkward. He used the polymorph as well. So we're going to do again the same thing here. We're just going to wait until it gets close enough. Wait till this Chalga gets close enough and then drop it right on Chalga. We don't want Chalga to attack the base in this case if we can help it. But we drop the ghoul in a great place because it draws the aggro of the Quillboar and then also kills off the Chalga without actually getting stopped from using its melee attacks. So we're going to go a bit aggressive with our Quillboar placement here. We don't want him farming. And this is where he makes the mistake. So sometimes, and this is something you can do in your games, sometimes if you interrupt their kobold, they will actually make a rash decision to try and go for your kobold. So I spent 2 gold to go for his kobold, but he's now just spent 3 gold to go for my kobold. And you know what's the most important thing here? He's not going to safe pilot my Thalnos. And now I have the opportunity to build my Thalnos to a high enough level that it's not going to get safe pilot one shot, even by polymorph. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to start trying to build this Thalnos up so that it's not easily one-shottable by a safe pilot plus polymorph. And he's actually ended up using polymorph as well and execute. And for some reason he's done this when the Thalnos hasn't even been touched. So here comes the Thalnos down now. We're going to immediately use Holy Nova, and now we have a level 16 Thalnos, and we're going to drop another one to put the pressure on if this one doesn't actually make it through. So this is just a really, really, really good good start for us. We've done a great job here. We're going to even try and ensure that we can keep getting some damage on the tower, which we can here. He's even going to execute my Thalnos, but my Thalnos is a high enough level that execute's not really doing that much damage now, and that's where we capitalized on the mistake. We've now got a level 17 Thalnos because I spawned him when I was using all of those spells anyway, and at this point, it's going to be very difficult for him to come back. We're even going to just heal up my Quillboar. We end up getting the win. So that was well played on an opponent mistake. We made mistakes in the early game, but then we capitalized on his mistakes later on. Right, next game. All right, we've got another game versus a Cairn. Again, this can be a difficult matchup because, as we said before, Cairn has a lot of tanky units, and we're not particularly strong versus tanky units. So I've seen him drop a Griffin Rider. I don't have a great early cycle, so I actually have to use my Quillboar. So I'm just going to use my Quillboar. I don't mind using it in this scenario, even if it's going to die needlessly. It's just to cycle out to something a bit better. We also then ensure that we do get our crate. It also delayed his Cairn and his Griffin Rider, and that's actually worked out quite well. Now, he is going to use Holy Nova, but I'm going to try and don't quite get away with it. So I'm actually going to use my Griffin... So, 1 second, let me just figure out what happened there. I kind of got a bit confused. Right, yeah. So this is a mistake that you need to learn from me. Don't invest too many resources into your Thalnos if they go for the polymorph safe pilot combo, which is kind of the standard response to Thalnos, right? I try to take out the safe pilot with Arcane Blast, but it's not worth it at this level. You need to get another cast off, so you probably need your Thalnos cycled out a few more times. I obviously also wasted my polymorph in this scenario because I'm not going to get any value from my polymorph here. It is what it is. I've messed up. But I'm actually going to hold on to my third Arcane Blast here because it will clean up the majority of his stuff. Oh, no, I don't even hold on to it. So, again, this is one of those scenarios where we've made a mistake. What are we going to do? Wait for him to overcommit and then just use Thalnos to try and sort of come back. So we drop Thalnos in the bottom right-hand corner. We have got absolutely 0 gold at the moment, but Thalnos should be able to clear up the majority of these units, and that's what I'm going to do here. Also, you do want to drop a ghoul right on top. He's going to use the polymorph again, but what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to... This is a really good move. You can actually stealth your... sheep, and then the safe pilot won't hit it. So that's what I did in this scenario. I just ended up stealthing the sheep, but we're still in a pretty rough spot. We've made a pretty critical error at this stage of the game, but what we've done well here is we have ended up drawing the Cairn away from the tower, so the Cairn isn't going to keep stunning the tower, so the troll doesn't get a huge amount of damage off and take some damage in its own right. We'll just cycle out the stealth And he's obviously just going to safe pilot my Thalnos, which is fine. But we do that little nice thing where we use the Holy Nova, but we didn't quite deploy our Quillbore in time. So we're not playing particularly well in this game. And he has cycled out his Cairn quite frequently here. And we have to kind of come back from behind to try and win this. So we're going to go for it again. We should, in this case, a little confused. Obviously, the ghoul needs to get a hit. If you didn't know, the ghoul actually needs to get a hit on the unit. If it doesn't, then it won't actually get anything to eat afterwards. We're going to drop Quillbore behind, but it doesn't actually make a difference. The Quillbore doesn't really do anything in this scenario. And Cairn just, really popping off. But we have actually cycled out another Thalnos now. And we're slowly but surely trying to get towards his base. So this is what we're attempting to do here, just slowly but surely trying to get towards his base. We're actually going to polymorph that to get a one-shot on it, gets a gold back. It's technically an even trade. And we're going to try and cycle out a Quillbore. So you can see why I went pretty rapidly in that way. He actually polymorphs a little too early, and in this case, obviously, we now have a high enough level Thalnos that it doesn't really matter. So we've done a really, really good job here. We actually also end up getting the chest, because when Cairn is in his resurrection mode, he doesn't count as being a unit on the field, so you actually end up getting the chest because Cairn was in his resurrection mode, which is great. The problem that we have here is we're not actually getting close enough to his base. We haven't dealt any damage to his base, and Thalnos is slow, and so this is one of the problems that you're going to find versus Cairn decks. And sorry, my commentary on this particular one hasn't been great. I was kind of waffling, and I need to go to London soon. We have to somehow have one absolutely insane push to get away with this, and it's just not really working out because Cairn's too tanky, and he's just sort of dealing with us too frequently. Now, what I could have been doing is obviously trying to go down the right-hand side, and just the threat to my own base was just too much. So this is why this deck struggles versus Cairn, because it's just too tanky. There's too much for you to deal with. And even though the reincarnation makes this even harder, because Cairn, in this sense, just becomes almost impossible to deal with. Now, you can see that I'm just trying to get my way through. I've got a level 20 Cairn. He does immediately pop out of the polymorph, which is great. The execute does nothing. At this point, this would be great. We're in a situation where we could, go a little bit further, but we are just so far away from actually getting our Thalnos onto the base that it's just not going to work. We're too far away from getting Thalnos into the base. If this game was another minute longer, we might have been okay, but we've got 9 seconds to get Thalnos to the base, and it's just not going to happen at this point. So, that's just showing you again why these Cairn decks are quite difficult to deal with, because they generally can tank you in the early game. And actually, on reflection, when we look back at this, if I had actually just used Arcane Blasts on the base throughout this game, would I have been in a better off spot? Probably. Might have been better, but we didn't. We were a little bit too focused on trying to get our Thalnoses out. So again, another one of those learnings that if you're in this situation and you're going up against a Cairn deck and it's difficult, maybe start cycling your Arcane Blasts on the base just to get some chip damage down. Maybe try and do it when the Troll Headhunter spawns. So when you use the third Arcane Blast, you get a 3 gold for 3 gold trade. Just think about it that way. But we ended up losing, obviously. Mostly versus Cairn, though. So, Now we're versus the same Cairn player, but on a different map. And this is an interesting game. This is a really, really good game. I'd kind of learned a little bit from my games, from the Cairn games previously. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and ignore the Stonehoof Tauren. I'm going to try and make sure I get value out of this Thalnos, which is great, because this Thalnos is now taken down that Troll Headhunter. We're also going to get a ghoul that's going to buy us a lot of time. We're actually going to stop the what they're called, the Murloc Tidehunters. Sorry, I ended up getting a bit of a dry mouth. Stop the Murloc Tidehunters, which is great because they don't actually take down my Bloodmage Thalnos. And now he's spent a lot of gold, and my Bloodmage Thalnos now is able to get a couple of hits on the base. In the meantime, that Stonehoof Tauren is being tanked by ghouls. And those ghouls are now full HP, and I've got 2 of them with armored heading towards this next Stonehoof Tauren. So I've got a really, really tanky little lineup here, which is fantastic. So we're in a really, really good spot in this case. We're even going to go for the polymorph in this case as well, which unfortunately we just about get away with it for him. I think it was a little unfortunate for him. He was obviously hoping to blizzard out my Thalnos, but my Thalnos had gained enough levels at this point, and we've actually had some really strong value trades in this case. So hopefully, I was looking to maybe one-shot that troll headhunter, but it wasn't the case. But it doesn't matter because we could just drop a we'll be able to drop a ghoul right in front of the base here. So getting some good value trades with ghoul. We've cycled out our Thalnos way more than our previous attempts, and in this case now we're actually even going to drop a quill ball right behind the ghoul, because the ghoul able with armored to tank this Darkspear troll for quite a bit of time, which is great because the Darkspear troll is not going to get any damage onto the base. Now I'm going to let this Thalnos go down. That was a really, really good situation for me because the Thalnos just ended up taking out the Griffin Rider as well. So that worked out in a really, really good scenario for me. So we actually accidentally dropped the ghoul in the wrong spot, but we were just looking to get the gold from the polymorph there, which is great, which is exactly what we did. He actually uses Blizzard, but again, we are now at the point where Bloodmage Thalnos is kind of doing okay. Does end up dying to the Darkspear troll because it slightly outranges my Bloodmage Thalnos, which is kind of annoying. Bloodmage Thalnos couldn't hit the Darkspear troll, but my Darkspear troll, my Thalnos ended up not doing great there in that situation. But we are cycling Thalnos much earlier than we should. We were also trying to, where we can, deny his farming, which is the most important thing here. One of the things that we didn't have very going for us on the other level was that we didn't actually have a way to contest the farming on the central platform. But on this level, it's much easier to contest the farming because we can just keep sending Bloodmage Thalnos up towards his base. Now, we've taken a load of damage off that one push, which is a little bit annoying, but still pretty confident that we can kind of get this going and keep the dream alive of actually winning this one out. Not going too well, though. He has just used Blizzard, but you can tell that he doesn't have much economy left himself. So we're now controlling his gold mine. That's the one nearest to his base. And we're also going to have, probably can spawn a ghoul or even just use a couple of spells to buff my Bloodmage Thalnos up in this situation. But we just need to get Thalnos towards his base, is what we're doing. Now we're into gold overtime, which is great for us. We kind of want to be in gold overtime. This is just a situation where we're going to flourish compared to him. He also sent his Kobold down the wrong lane, which is really interesting. I don't know why the Kobold went down that lane, but now we're just in a situation where we're trying to essentially cycle our Thalnos as much as physically possible. We just want to send loads of Thalnoses down the same road, and that's what we're doing here. We're even just going to straight up polymorph his Darkspear troll. That ends up going down. We're just sending Thalnoses up towards the base, and we're just going to keep actually using the Arcane Blast in this scenario. And that's the really, really good thing to note, is that we're just using Arcane Blast to get us through that last bit of chip damage. We're even going to use the stealth to get us close, and we want to cycle out to Arcane Blast again. So that is what we're going to do. We're going to Arcane Blast. We're going to Arcane Blast. And this is the thing that I learned from my previous games. Arcane Blasting, the Thalnoses get there, and we clutch it out at the end. That was the difference. That was the change maker that we did, though. We changed up our strategy and actually used Arcane Blast to actually go for base chip damage towards the end in overtime, because that's where Arcane Blast really gets its value. Right, let's try and find one more game to do. All right, we've got a Thalnos versus Thalnos matchup here, which is going to be interesting. So again, like opening, like if I don't have Ghoul, I'm just going to go straight for Thalnos. I'm actually going to use my... do you know what, actually, guys? I've just seen that's a level 6. He has got level 8s, but he's got level 6 Dark Eye Miner. I can't in good conscience do this game because there is obviously some sort of level discrepancies that are just going to not look great when I analyze this. We've got some good games though. Let's focus on the fact that this is a cool deck to play. It's fun, and that's the most important thing. It's fun. I've had more fun playing this deck than I have a lot of other decks in the game. So enjoy it, have fun with it, and I'll see you soon.